imagine it would have been in years past. How about now, Vince?
Yeah, they fixed it. Bloody technology. So keep going. Don't let me interrupt.
We're talking about rats.
Rats. Okay. Oh yeah. Jeremy's Jeremy's mold
Yep.
problem. Yeah. Don't you just love those things turning up to give you something to work on? Yeah. Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? It's like not being a vegetarian or whatever. You know, what do? You're really faced with having to exterminate or what you can. You just can't leave them there. You know, they just
Yeah.
up with so many that. Yeah.
I discovered a belief that I have that I learned was completely unreasonable. I had mentioned when the pest control guy came out that I had this fear of even if it was a mouse, like I've had this fear of them. There was one morning in our house years ago where I was sitting in the kitchen having a cup of coffee, and I swear I saw something in the corner of my eye, and I looked up and there was a mouse sitting on my stove looking at me. And it just scared the crap out of me. And so I was mentioning to him that like I was worried that the whatever it was, the rodent, was going to fall out of the attic, get down into my daughter's bedroom, and then I was going to be chasing it around the house and then try to grab it, have it bite me, you know, get some sickness from it. And he's like, I've never been bit by anything. He's like, it's nothing. He's like, it's nothing to be afraid of. He's like, I've picked them up hundreds of times and never had anything come close. And I was like, why was I so afraid of getting bit by a rodent?
Did you track it back?
Did we find it? Or you mean the fear?
Yeah.
I don't know where it came from.
So
no idea.
You can fairly safely say it came from before, somewhere before.
Yeah.
It felt familiar. It felt like you've had it for a long time. Yeah. And it would be also fairly safe to say that you learned it somewhere. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, babies are not afraid of rats, are they? You know, or snakes or anything. Babies are quite happy about them. So it's a beautiful example of how we are conditioned, and that conditioning stays hidden until something triggers it. It's just wonderful. That happens, eh? Yeah.
It might be related. I remembered when we had this mouse issue years ago and learning about how to like clean up all of the mouse poop and other things, and that there are some viruses in mouse droppings that can make you really sick, and so you got to be careful and, you know, disinfect stuff. And I wonder if my brain just made an assumption that, you know, you could also get sick if they bite you, and that they'll bite you. I don't. So that's the only thing that I could.
A frightened cornered animal would bite in it as a protection, but you know, I understand that people who keep them as pets will say they're very clean. You know, so if they lived in a rubbish tip next door, so to speak, you might be worried about what they're going to carry and bring in. But if they're in a clean house or the roof of a clean house, you know, they're probably not going to have any diseases, but still, that's not the issue. The issue is that fear that's developed. So do you feel like something has changed as a result of that experience in your relationship to them?
Yes.
Yeah.
One is just kind of like walking back well, if X happens, and if that's what I'm afraid of, why am I, so what? Like, can I be in a body that's got a mouse on the floor running around my house? Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, what if I got to chase it around? Can I can I be in a body that's experiencing that and realizing, at least in this situation, that I don't know that there's anything to really, there's no foundation to the fear that should stop me
So
in my tracks.
somehow some belief changed, right? That irrational fear that was there, that seemed rational before it was got investigated, and that belief changed. Now, still, you might be, how can I put it, not wanting to be bitten, not wanting, well, but not for the same reason. Not that you're not no longer having the idea that you're going to end up in hospital as a result of a bite kind of thing. You know, it's just something you don't want to happen. Yeah. So this is the amazing thing here is a belief changed. Not how, what happened? What happened to change the belief? You saw something. That's what it was. You recognized something. And it was something that we're all faced with all the time. And that is you recognize that something from the past was no longer relevant. In the present, it's a different story to what it was when it originated. That's magic. That's just brilliant, that a belief can change like that. I mean,
And as we're
what a belief is, and they can't tell you, Yeah.
And as we were mentioning earlier, I didn't need to get to the bottom of
Exactly.
where the
Yes.
belief came from. I just needed to recognize these unpleasant sensations that had arisen.
Yep.
Realize that they were likely tied to some belief or conditioning, but
Yep.
yeah,
That's
and that was enough to just get the have them dissolve.
That's another brilliant one. I mean, that's where therapy takes us off into side trips. Often looking for that. We've got to root out the root thing and expose it, kind of thing. And in so doing, we probably make up a whole lot of stuff as well. But yeah, so that's good. That's really brilliant. We don't have to get to the root cause. We just have to recognize what it is and that it came from before and that it's no longer relevant. And then boom, yeah, love it. Good one, Jeremy. So we all clap our hands and thank you for that rat infestation. Yeah. So how do we change the belief that our thoughts have power? This is a really, really big one. So let's define it. Let's look at the let's examine it a bit more. What do we mean when we say our thoughts have power? Tell us, Don, what do we mean when we say our thoughts have power?
Okay, I was just going to thinking of a couple of examples. Well, the first thing comes to my mind is if they're true or not. Sometimes they do seem to be true. They seem to describe something that happened, something that might happen, something that's happening seems to be true. So it's not totally false. If it is one way, my thoughts have power for me is if I fantasize about something cheerful that I want, it'll make me feel happier than I was. And then the other way around, if I catastrophize about the rat on my attic, I can feel anxious, right? So they have power to make me feel, it seems. Maybe that's okay, maybe the thoughts don't, maybe I'm allowing it or something, but it seems that they do if I.
Okay. So what you're saying is that your experience is that certain thoughts make you feel happy and certain thoughts make you feel unhappy.
Yeah, it seems to be, yeah, because it seemed like, I don't know, last week I was saying something like not wanting to be in the present moment because it feels I'm alone or I'm afraid, and then I was going to say the alternative, but an alternative is get distracted and think about something cheerful and I'll feel better. And it kind of works, although it's working less well over the years. It gets me out of that feeling for a while.
So with that kind of investment in thoughts, it's really not a road for you to go down to believe that thoughts don't have any power. You lose the ability to make yourself happy.
Yeah, I suppose. On the other hand, possibly I'm making myself unhappy in the present moment. I'll say that in inverted commas because it's in my story, by thinking and believing things now. I guess I assume that the actual present moment doesn't need to have any thinking at all, and it wouldn't be. I don't know. I assume, as you know, I always think I'm doing something wrong. So like, even if I'm in the present, the best present I can get to, a lot of the time, it's still the present of my story. So I'm still somehow thinking and believing. I don't know what would be left if there were no thoughts at all. But
do you get that thoughts are always about something?
About something, I suppose so. Yeah. Do I? Yeah.
Whenever you're engaged with thoughts, you're in concept land. But the lie for you there is that certain thoughts make you feel good. So how does something about something actually create an experience which is actual? So an experience is not about anything, is it? An experience is something. So you start off with thoughts about something, and then you end up with an experience that is something.
So I guess it's like believing a thought, whether I'm believing it's being believed. Believing a thought can create an emotional reaction, which is like a physical sensation in the body. So that's a real thing. So the believing of the thought translates it into a real sensation of some kind.
Right. So it's not the thought, it's the believing the thought that gives you that experience.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And then, as we said, as people probably said before, about apparently if you visualize eating an apple, it can have a similar effect to eating an apple because your brain can't tell the difference or something. So maybe your body reacts to thoughts as if they're real a little bit and they seem real. Something like that. Yeah. Something like that. It's funny how I don't know. Go on. Yep.
A subtle question, or maybe a distinction. like the sort of absolute thoughts have no power. Is it fair to say that thoughts have power in the world of thought? Or is that, when you just mentioned the word belief in the thoughts, Vince, that made me think a little clearer about it, and that the thoughts themselves aren't inherently powerful, but it's the belief in the thought, or the response to the thought, is where it grants power to something that didn't or doesn't have it.
Let's change the idea of power. It grants power. Let's be more accurate, and let's say that we respond. It's not the thought that has the power. It's us responding to it in a way that gives us the experience. So it's kind of it's a shitty way to say it, that the thought itself has power. We recognize it's not the thought, it's the belief that gives us the experience. And the belief is what we respond to, not the thought itself, the belief that it's true.
That's helpful, in the sense that I've gotten hung up in lots of discussions when someone might say, and maybe I mentioned this before in a previous call, like experiencing some sort of sensation in my body and having this statement, well, there's no connection between that sensation and the thought. And that felt like, I was like, well, there does seem to be a connection, because, or at least a relationship. The sensations and the thoughts were arising, and the words that I've used are like, there doesn't have to be a connection. They're not inherently tied together and can't be pulled apart. And so I just lost my train of thought.
Yeah, I get that. And it's subtle. It's a bit of a tricky one, isn't it? That you won't find, if you go looking for an actual connection between your thought and the sensation, you won't find a connection. But yet there is a response to what you believe that thought is telling you. Or you could imagine that it's an optional response. Oh, I get into messy stuff straight away. It's not like it's not really optional. It's not a choice. Beliefs don't behave in that way, do they? Beliefs are mandatory. We must obey a belief until we don't, until some other belief changes till it changes for another belief or goes away, which it could do. We don't have a choice about believing, about responding to a belief, do we?
How do you distinguish between thought and belief?
Well, is it the nature of some thoughts that we believe them and the nature of other thoughts that we don't? So it's nothing inherent in the thought, is it? It's going to come back to our experience. It's going to come back to our filters, our conditioning about which thoughts we believe and which thoughts we don't. I mean, if I say, well, the world's going to blow up tomorrow and that's the end of it, you're not likely to believe that. There's no question about it. There's no attraction to it. The only response to that might be to scoff. But if I said the sun's going to rise tomorrow, that's a pretty hard one not to believe, isn't it? And you could still have a response to that says, so what? Of course. But Don, give us an example of the kind of thought that makes you feel good. I know the kind of thoughts that make you feel bad, that, you know, you're lost in this and you're never going to get out and all of that stuff. But what's one that makes you feel good?
Well, one is right now is I'm going to retire in 5 years and I won't have to go back to the crappy job I'm doing.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff like it's a lot of a future focused stuff. Actually, I've realized more and more increasing in the last little while that, you know, the future ends in my death. So maybe I should enjoy my life at some point. Yeah, it's usually stuff like that. Something might go well. I'm doing something at the weekend. I'm going to meet somebody for going to see a movie. I'm going to do something, something. It's usually something in the future that's going to work out better. Those kind of thoughts.
Okay. Let's just look at that for a minute. Why the future? Why not the present? What's the difference between, say, I'm going to go and have a nice cup of coffee or a nice shower or something that's right really close, rather than something that's tomorrow or the next day?
Oh yeah, no, it could be this moment. I mean, it couldn't. No, I mean, it could be fairly soon in the future. I could say I'm going to have a cup of coffee. That would make me feel a bit better. But that's still a few minutes in the future. And while I'm having the coffee, most likely I'm thinking about the next few minutes or a few hours.
Yes.
You know, something like, yeah, I think there's, I was going to go into it. I was going to say not to go into it in too much detail, right? And you know what's going to happen then, right? But I feel like what happened when I went to boarding school at the age of 12 and things went badly for me. Everything seemed to go badly. I feel like even more than I had been before, I just went into a fantasy place. I was like, this is nothing here and everyday life is working out.
Yeah,
I have no agency, I have no control. I have to just daydream. This is just, I can't control any of this.
right.
It's just disaster.
Boy, I can
Something
identify
like that.
with that. Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah. I can remember actually having the thought, and I have said this in the past, but I can remember actually having the thought walking home from primary school. God, I don't know how old I would have been, somewhere between 5 and 10 or 11 or something like that. And I remember walking home from school, and as I was walking, I always used to read when I was walking, and I had this realization that the world inside my head was so much better than the world out there. The world out there was full of pain, and the world inside of my head was lovely. It was great. I can really identify with that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think and I find it hard to, land and be like a state of flow, for example, or just being without being distracted. I've been distracted since then most of the time. I can't concentrate on reading and various things. But could I also ask a general question? So like when people examine thoughts, right? If I were to have a thought about this mug, right? And I'd say, this is a mug. And then I'd go, well, it's just a name. It's just the way I describe it now. I could start to examine the thought, this is a mug. And I could start to sort of pick it apart a little bit, and it's no big deal. And if I decided it wasn't a mug, I think Pernilla was doing a cup yesterday, but I could probably start to unravel the thought, this is a mug, and it isn't that serious. And I could, it would, whether it's not very powerful, it doesn't have to be true, and I could maybe do something with that's the thought here. On the other hand, the thought I'm having, as you can imagine right now, is I'm talking too much, right? That's much harder for me to work on because it feels true, because I shouldn't be wasting everyone's time, and that feels like it's about me really intensely. And the thoughts like that, the second character, I'm like, one of my beliefs, I guess, is I could be working on thoughts about mugs for decades, and would that ever have an impact on how true it feels to me now that I'm talking too much? And presumably it will, because that's what self-inquiry does, is it? But it feels like it doesn't have much.
So do you understand what that inquiry about the mug is designed to do?
Maybe I don't really. Maybe I don't.
Okay, it's exactly where we started this conversation off. It's that concepts and thoughts, the concepts are always about things. They're not actually anything. They're just about things. So when you realize that your direct experience of that mug is, and this is not quite accurate either, but it'll do for the moment, that your direct experience is that you experience color and you experience shape, you experience texture, right, and so on. That's what your direct experience of the mug is. When you call it a mug, you add to it what it's used for. You add to it the implication that it's designed to hold a liquid for you to drink, and so on. So all of these extra things you add to it are all conceptual. They're there for the purpose of communication, and they do a pretty good job of that. But that's all they're there for, right? And in the same way, your experience, your thoughts about going to a movie or having something nice happen is about that thing, but you respond to that as if it were happening now. As you say, your brain doesn't know how to pick the difference between what is actual and what you're imagining. So you have learned to make yourself feel better this way, right? It's a great form of masturbation. Works great. Yeah. And it's not appropriate to take that away from you until you can see that there's something better there. And you can't. I get it that you can't see something better. That you think without that stuff, life is going to be pretty terrible. Or at least, when I say you think that, there's an underlying kind of thought about that, eh? Would that be accurate?
Well, I suppose so. I mean, I'm like, say yesterday, for example, I tried to spend a lot of time in the present moment. I don't know why I use quotation marks because anyway, whatever. But I spent a lot of time, didn't have a lot of work to do. I sat for a good length of time and I just felt flipping miserable. I was like, it's almost unbearable levels of sadness and fear and loneliness and pointlessness, hopeless. Everything was just, oh my God. And I was going, can I just get to the sensation of this? And I was just shaking, trying to sit there with it and going, this is intolerable. I can't bear this supposed present moment. What the hell am I doing making this, which is probably completely fine, into some terrible thing that I can't bear to sit in? And I tried for 15 or 20 minutes several times. I'm like, this is unbearable. I can't bear this present moment. But this can't be the present moment. I must be making it up. What am I doing? And I couldn't make out what I was doing. I was just kind of resisting, what's the word? Objecting to, or just saying no to the present moment the whole day long, going, I can't bear this. My life isn't the way I want it to be. I need to think about something and make it different, which I can't. And so yeah, that's what, so it isn't just a thought that it isn't. I'm like, I can't even flip, and when I sit there to do it most of the time, I mean, if somebody helps me, right, if Alan helps me or Luciana or someone, and just, it takes Luciana a good, like everyone else, a good 3/4 of an hour up to an hour to calm me down enough to go, oh yeah, present moment, it's okay. And really takes that long of constantly cajoling me back to go, and then I go, oh yeah, it's okay. And then somebody leaves 10 minutes after someone is gone, I'm back into the, so it's, yeah. So I don't know why it's so hard for me to stay here. And I kind of know, I know it's okay, but I can't find the okay part. I find the not okay part in between or something. I don't know if that makes any sense.
So do you realize, do you recognize that in all of that horrible feelings, in all of that pain, in all of that stuff that you resist, that is the present moment?
Yeah. So I do try and do that kind of, can I stay in, can I be in a body that feels whatever I'm feeling? Yeah. And I try and just go, this is what's happening.
Yeah. So I'm not, yeah. See, let's not put all our effort into trying to change things. That's part of the problem, right? So if you can accept that, although it's unpleasant, it is the present moment that you're with. What you're responding to is some promise that you've given yourself that when you do find the present moment, the one that's in quotes, that'll be lovely.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. And then what I also do is I kind of go, well, maybe maybe it won't be great. But when I sit there for hours and it's terrible, I go, I blame myself. I think I must be making this unnecessarily bad here. I must be telling additional stories here. It can't be this terrible for the whole day long, can it? I must be doing something to make it worse. What am I doing? That's kind of what I do when I look at what I'm doing and I go, I must be telling negative stories here. Can I do something with those? Drop those.
And yeah, drop those. And there's that implication that I've got to stop doing this. I've got to change what I'm doing. Right? I'm
Yeah.
Bloody hell, I'm totally useless at this, aren't I? You know, I can't stop doing it. Well, don't try and stop doing it. What I'm telling you is that the attempt to get away from it is where all the problems are.
Okay.
You are doing it. You just don't know what it is you're doing.
I don't know. I mean, I assume that a lot of what I'm doing is attempting to get away from it and coming,
Yes,
that coming back and forth is.
But look, here's the trick.
Hmm.
So you recognize, okay, I'm trying to get away from it. That's the problem. I better stop doing that.
Yeah.
That becomes the new problem. Right? What about, I'm doing this shit again. Oh, what am I doing? What is going on? Let's look at it. Right? Not with a judgment, not with an attempt to stop it. Right? You invite it in because it's happening. You've got the opportunity to investigate. If it stopped, you wouldn't have the opportunity. So invite it in and accept it and say, thank you for being here. I know you're trying to do the best by me. I know you're trying to stop me from getting into a really, really bad place. Right? And then have a discussion with it. You know, at home, here's a good one to do. This is an old Gestalt therapy trick thing. You get two chairs and you sit in one and you imagine yourself in the other one, and you talk to the person in the other chair, and then you swap chairs and talk back to that person. So you have this two-way conversation, but you jump from chair to chair talking to the other person. So you say you sit in one chair and you say, Don, why are you doing this stuff? And then you jump in the other chair and you say, well, I don't fucking know. I'm just doing it, you know? And so you jump back into the other chair and say, well, let's have a look at it. And you jump back in the other chair and say, well, I don't know if I can. So you jump back in the other chair and so on. You know what I mean? It's, you can laugh because it is funny, but at the same time, you might be surprised what you show yourself. And I suspect that you've only got to show yourself some little sliver of light, and all of a sudden things will start to change for you. This has been going on for so long that I'm sure you're totally bored with it.
Yeah. Okay.
Don, you could get on you could have your phone and your computer. You could get on a Zoom call with yourself and guide guide yourself through it.
There's an idea. Yeah. Yeah. I guess, couldn't I? I guess I could. The only little, well, I was going to say the only little objection I have, is my first objection, is that the stories I tell myself seem true, particularly the bad ones, you know, about how hopeless my life is. And I go off on those. I suppose that's just what I'm going to have a conversation with myself about, isn't it? Just, they all seem so true, all these various strands of my story.
So it's worth looking for the thread that says, I believe this thought, I believe these thoughts. Right? And when you get down to it, no thought, because thoughts are totally irrelevant to everything. No thoughts warrant believing or disbelieving. They're just things that happen. You know, they're like the grass growing out the front or the cars that go past, you know, they just happen. You know, they're not really got anything to do with anything, but they do for you at the moment. But you you will get to the point where you'll realize that they're totally irrelevant. They're just there out of habit. So when those ones turn up that make you feel bad, you can kind of smile and go, oh, you're here again. And you can do the same thing for when the ones that make you feel good turn up. You can say, oh, okay, I'll go along with that because I like to feel good. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. But curiosity, don't try and stop anything. Don't try and do anything. And if you do try and stop something, don't try and stop that.
Mm.
And if you try and stop that, don't try and stop that. Just go with whatever comes up. Yeah. As an
Yeah.
experiment and curiosity, that's the attitude you want. Yeah. We're not in a hurry. You know, you haven't died. You haven't shot yourself. You're not committed suicide. You know, you're still going. So as horrible as all is, you know, it hasn't been so bad. It's just,
No, yeah.
yeah, it's just bad feelings, shitty feelings. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's so weird. Yeah, I know you already said this. I find that word curiosity really hard to apply to this. I don't feel curious. I feel pissed off and going, I can see myself making myself feel miserable. I want to stop doing it.
Yes.
I don't feel curious. I just want to stop doing it.
Yes.
You know?
So jump into that chair and go that. I don't want to stop doing it. I'm not going to stop doing it. And jump back into the other chair and go on, make that bigger. And jump back into that chair and go, I'm not going to stop doing it.
Yeah.
If I can add something here, I think what is very important to understand is that we go into thoughts because there is sensation that we want to avoid. There's emotion that we want to avoid. So if this is not clear, you can play with thoughts forever. It's useless, you know. If you really understand that when you go into your imaginary world and your narrative, pleasant or unpleasant, is because there's an emotion or sensation that you want to avoid. So if you have two chairs, let one speak and let the other always answer. And how do you feel about that? And how do you feel about that? And how do you feel about that? And it will be always, you'll have to refocus into sensations. Because if your emotional world is peaceful, thoughts is not really a problem, you know.
Mm.
Can you see this, Don?
A little. Well, I don't know if I see it. I kind of see it, but I've heard it being said, and presumably by Vince, by Pernilla in particular, I guess, in the last while. So I do try and find what I'm feeling or what the sensations are, what I'm trying to escape from, I guess. And
what are you feeling
right
now? What are you feeling right now?
I don't find it very easily. There's some energy here, some embarrassment, confusion. It takes me a while to go down. That's what I spent a while to get down.
This is thought. I'm just asking you. So you feel confusion.
Yeah.
So stay with this. Just feel it. How do you know where it is in your body, for example?
Yeah, it seems to be in my head.
In the head. What kind of texture does it have?
Sort of cloudy, spinning, dizzy.
Cloudy, spinning, dizzy. Exactly. But we will stay with this for a while. And I'm sure everyone else can feel that now. The feeling, the tone of the moment is very different because you are going in a completely different direction now. So stay with this confusion, with this dizziness, with this cloud, and see what happens.
Yeah, I feel it's sort of fading away a little bit. I feel calmer now. But the thought comes up that says, it's easier to do this when someone's helping me, but it's hard when I'm on my own because I get distracted from it.
Yeah, but this is thought again. So now
Yeah.
you feel calmer, right?
Yeah.
So where it is this calm? How do you know that you are calm right now?
I'd say it's more an absence of agitation and anxiety rather than actual calm.
So can you answer with thought, with sensation word or adjective, like where it is in your body, or what texture it have, what kind of color or movement?
No, calm. No, I don't think I can. I don't know. As far as calm, I just don't know. I can't describe calm itself somehow.
But you feel
right
it,
now.
right? You
Yeah.
feel it. Okay, so just feel it. Just feel it.
Yeah. It feels like just dissolving the dissolving of the other stuff that I don't want. The anxiety and the agitation, like I said.
But
so it
can you
happens everywhere.
feel right?
Everywhere there's a sensation, yeah. It's slowly, yeah.
Can you feel right now that you are in a different space, kind of different direction than before?
Yeah.
Do you know how you got here? To this different, do you know what process went on?
I mean, moving towards sensations and away from thoughts. Is that what you were going to say? Yeah.
I wouldn't phrase that like that. You're not moving
Would you?
away from thought into sensation.
Okay.
You are just being broader. There is thought there. I know there is always thought, but your awareness is going bigger, and it's just including sensation. That there is thought in sensation, and sensation is more in the picture right now. But thought is still there. You need to move away. They're always there. Everything is here always. But your awareness is just growing a little bit bigger, and you are having a little bit bigger picture. Like there is sensation also present, and what is happening there. But yeah, I understand you move away from thought into sensation, and if you get used to this movement, it can be interesting.
It would be, because that only took up 2 or 3 minutes for you to help me do that, where I spent hours yesterday trying to do that, and I failed all the time.
That's not true. I didn't do anything.
Well, yeah.
It's just that you forgot this possibility. You forgot this possibility in your day-to-day life. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all. You just have to remember that this possibility is available to you. Yeah. So there is many very easy tricks to remember things. Alarm, post-its. I mean, there is, it's very simple to remember something. Yeah. But it's very easy to do. So it's just remembering that this possibility to refocus thoughts, to refocus into sensation. It's very easy.
So you could even.
And I didn't do it. You did it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so when I say, you know what happened, how you got there, you said you knew, but I imagine that you still had that thought that when I'm by myself, it's harder.
Because I mean, I would say that when I got up yesterday, that's exactly what I intended to do. I didn't forget. I remembered. I didn't need a post-it note. I was like, I'm going to pay attention to my sensations. And the whole day I felt flipping miserable, and it didn't calm down the whole day, despite that intention repeatedly to do what we just did now. I don't know what I did differently.
But feeling miserable is feeling your sensations. Yeah. So you succeeded.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's true. I had pretty intense sensations, so I was probably doing it. Yeah.
I think maybe, Don, it would be helpful to focus more on the pleasant sensation, as I did for a while.
Okay. Okay.
Don, when you
And then
mentioned
you can
yesterday
upgrade.
when you mentioned the intention yesterday when you woke up to feel into present moment and sensations, and then the day was a disaster and that didn't happen. Is it I guess my question is, were you regularly forgetting that that's what your intention was, and then you would remember, and then you'd forget again, and then remember and forget and remember? Or was that, I guess, describe how you know that the intention didn't really come to fruition and the day was a mess?
It may just be the expectation. It may be I did actually experience it, as was the David just said, like that I was experiencing sensations and they were very difficult to sit with. Maybe that's what was happening just. But it just felt like even when I'm right there sort of trying to do whatever practice, it feels like there's such resistance of thought pulling me away from trying to feeling sensations and distraction. It's not that I've forgotten that I'm doing a practice. Even while I'm doing a practice, there's energy trying to pull me away from it. And I'm there going, hold on a second, this is thinking, this is feeling, this is all kinds of stories. Can we just stay with the sensations, please? And I'd be sitting there for 20 minutes or half an hour trying to find sensations rather than stories. There's a lot of energy in it. And I feel I'm kind of, if I'm constantly in a story going, my life is terrible, I hate my job, blah, 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 for 20 minutes, I'm going, that's not sensations, that's stories, hold on a second. So I feel like kind of, yeah, but so I didn't get as far as the sensations sometimes, and B, the sensations themselves felt really intense and not very enjoyable. And I would guess it was an expectation that it might be easier maybe. So maybe I was succeeding and it wasn't fun. Maybe that's what's happening. But I suppose I do have an expectation that it calms down at some point if I sit for long enough. Maybe that's not true.
That sounds completely exhausting. Like how much effort you put into it yesterday.
Yeah, it's it feels like there's a lot of resistance, and I don't know what to do with it. Yeah, it just is. And then, of course, as we discussed, we've joked about before, I blame myself for doing that. I think I'm resisting the present moment by trying to get away from it, and I'm contributing to this misery that I'm feeling. So I need to stop. But it's a bit, yeah.
What would happen if you didn't try so hard?
I feel like, well, what happened is the same as the bits in between my so-called practice, which would be just distraction and living my life and feeling unhappy, which I suppose every now and then I'd be distracted into not feeling so miserable, but that happens every now and then, just as a sort of a random thing. But I don't know how not.
So you have to stay diligent. You can't take your eye off the prize, otherwise all hell will break loose and it'll all fall apart.
It feels like I'm just, I don't know. Yeah, well, not really. Just the status quo will be sustained, which is just me being in stories. And I sort of assume that's what I'm trying to break, that habit, is to break the habit of being in stories by putting some attention on whatever the thing is, the present moment or sensations or something. But I'm battling against this habit. And if there's an assumption that just by relaxing I'll calm down into, so it doesn't seem to happen. I don't know. Yeah. And then I tell myself, oh, I have to do yoga and I have to do Tai Chi and I have to do all these things because obviously I have to calm my nervous system or something. There's always a big long list of things I need to do next in order to calm myself down. And there's always something else I need to do.
Don, do you accept that there's a false concept of yourself that's in the way?
In theory, I do. I just don't know how to see it clearly.
Can you consider that every time you think, then that is the false concept? That most of where you're coming from is from the idea?
Yeah, I do consider that fairly frequently. Sometimes it helps a little bit. I don't see it. Yeah, sometimes I do that kind of self-inquiry thing, and I try to see what that is, and it helps a bit.
What if you're acting as that false character? How do you get out in front of that? What if all of that operation and maneuvering is all coming under the guise of that basic assumption? Something that's not really there. What if all that operation and all those mental maneuvers, that is the false, that's Don. The idea of Don.
Yeah, it is. I know. Funny. Yeah. So sometimes I can step back from it, I guess, and sort of, I don't know, create space doesn't sound right, but somehow try to
what if you just did it right there? What if you just did it right there? That was it.
Yeah. I think I can do that. I think I can do it now, like when you're reminding me. And
do
then
what?
it just,
do what?
It just the habit brings me back, and I keep doing it. So I do keep doing that.
You keep doing what?
I keep doing the stepping back and noticing that there's a pretend person here.
How do you step back? How do you step back?
By remembering to do it, I think.
What if that's the false effort?
The remembering is false effort.
Yeah, you're already in that character. There aren't a lot of other options. It's going to be hearing, tasting, smelling, seeing, because you're giving up thinking. So there's silence, and then the sensations.
Mm.
And anything more than that, you've already put on that mask.
Yeah.
Like maybe you're doing it right now if you're thinking.
Maybe I'm doing the false thing, you mean, is it?
Yeah. The mask is already on if your mind is trying to grasp something. What is prior to that and beneath it? And it's not thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it's just what I can see and hear and sense and so on is here already.
Who can sense and see and hear? Did you do it from the mask? The answer is that there's no answer. It's just silence. It's just hearing. Once someone is doing something, you have that mask on already.
And there's not just one mask. There's the mask that says, I'm miserable, I can't get out of my head. And then when you start talking to yourself, like, I need to get into the sensations. That's I think what you're saying, David, is that's just another mask.
Yeah.
It's not completely taking the mask off. Actually, we were talking earlier about having you have two different chairs. Or I had mentioned like the Zoom call. What might be interesting is I don't know if you have anything that's like a mask. Maybe cut some holes in a sheet of paper and have one of them labeled, miserable Don, and put that in front of your face and say some things, and then get in the other chair, put another mask on that's, this is the wise and enlightened Don. They're both still masks.
Yeah.
So when you remember to step back, and you gain that a certain sense of calm, it's exactly the same as telling yourself a story that makes you feel better about going to the movies or whatever. You're not really stepping back. You're only thinking about stepping back. So what really stepping back would be a sudden void of thinking and just an appreciation of feeling without judgment, just an appreciation of what is there, what are the feelings that are present. That's the only moment when there is no mask at all.
And something that is so familiar and so continuous has stopped. It's a stop. It's like if a bomb went off and you were stunned, and there was that moment of everything just stopped. And
Yeah.
that's silence. And something is still and not moving.
And you wouldn't expect it to hang around for a long time to start with. You would expect it might be there for a few seconds in the beginning. It's really valuable to appreciate those even milliseconds of moments when you do that, because that's what opens that up for longer and bigger and more and whatever, however you want to describe it. But to say, oh, that only happened for a second, so it can't be it, is just bullshit. It will only happen for seconds in the beginning, in the very beginning. So if you can appreciate those seconds when they do occur, and that is suddenly, and you might find what triggers that is something you see or something you smell, or, one of the senses will be engaged. You might see something and it's like you go, oh, it's like I'm seeing it for the first time. Oh, look at that. Wow. That moment when there's no words to, but of course the mind will race back in straight away and try and do what it does. It'll try and describe it. It'll want to communicate it or whatever, But the point is, that's the moment when there's no self there trying to run the show.
Yeah, sometimes it seems to be clear for a second, I don't know. And then there's a memory of it and then trying to do something to get there, which just always feels a bit contrived, I think, what you were saying, David. I don't know. But I do feel a lot of doubt, but at the same time, I think I have experienced it for fractions of a second.
Yeah.
But then the thinking is almost always there and almost always.
Yeah. And it wants to cancel it out. I know that. Yeah. That thinking doesn't want to give up. It feels so necessary. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was only say that was sort of my practice from July onwards last year. I was just going, I'm just going to kind of wait for that to arise and stay there as long as possible. But and then I've just been a little bit more upset recently, so it's harder to calm down.
Yeah.
Wait for it to
Well,
happen.
you got sucked into trying to do it, didn't you?
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
It's not something you can do. It's something that will happen, but it's not something you can do.
it's like it's coming to a recognition that you're cornered. You cannot make a single move. Like right now in this meeting, if you recognize that you're cornered, you would just be silent for the rest of the meeting. You can't go anywhere. You can't make a move or say anything. There's only one way to get in front of it all, and is to recognize that you're already there and you can't move. You can't do anything without stepping back into that mask.
And you recognize that every thought that turns up is trying to suck you back into that.
Yeah.
And you can feel that little movement into thought, like some energetic, like as it begins to take shape, you can feel it.
Yep.
And then you know where it's going, you know what's happening, and it just dissolves.
And there's a big feeling of giving up in the whole thing. You recognize the futility of effort and you just give up.
And then you'll see it as the movie that it is, like watching a movie.
Then you'll go, why the fuck have I been watching these B-grade movies for so long?
Yeah.
You guys just gave me a mind. I just had a mind-blowing realization in that, like, in any given stance, like in my field of vision right now, like the idea that I could change what I see if I'm looking at like it's absurd. I'm looking at a chair and I have zero control over what is seen, or what I'm hearing,
Yeah.
or what I'm smelling, feeling in my body, like in my bodily sensations.
And would you include what you're thinking in that?
What I'm thinking?
Yeah, would you include that as having no control over that either?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you say I have no control, who do you mean?
Right. There's no, the I is a conceptual.
Yeah. There is no control. That's what I took him to mean. Yeah. And that's part of the giving up. That's part of the it is what it is, what it is, what it is.
But if there's no control, is there anyone who gave it up, or anyone who, was there ever a controller?
No,
It can only
it
be a
couldn't have been.
concept. It's the same kind of a concept as the control. Same stuff.
I just had a deeper realization when others have said, you know, that I don't find a controller, and I now realize that there never could have been. That got deeper for me right now.
So what's left?
Everything. Yeah. So how are you traveling, Alan?
Yeah, I spend a lot of time in silence, more and more. Why, I don't know. But listening to this past hour's worth of conversation, I'll share an experience. I about a week ago, I was doing one of my typical just sitting there, not doing anything in particular. And I heard a sound. I heard a bird. And then I heard a car. And then I heard myself breathe. And I can't say that I was noting or labeling this as it was happening. This is I'm just in so that I can communicate this to you. I don't know how long this went on, but it was almost like for the first time I really heard is probably unfiltered as it could be. And it's like I've heard this saying, the silence can be deafening. It became too much. There was so much sound just bombarding. And then my thought kicked in, or something kicked in. It was like, whoa, back up. What was that? And suddenly it was gone. And it's kind of, I think, what you guys were saying there. That was a first time experience. Nothing like that's ever happened before. I can't say that it was definitely pretty amazing, pretty different. And then I had time to think about this. And I guess it was kind of a great experience to show me how thought and going into your head can be sort of a safe place, sort of a place where we talk about the direct experience. Well, if you stay in the thought realm, which is, if that's where you're familiar hanging out, you're really missing. You don't get that. You can't experience all, like what you're actually seeing. You can't experience what you're actually hearing. It's kind of de-attenuated in thought.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, that's really about all I can say about that. I don't know if anyone's ever had a similar experience like that. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. I get what you're saying, especially about thought and how that can act like a suit of armor to protect you from the intensity of that raw input that can be from any of the senses. Thought definitely interferes with that. Yeah. Mm. So when you say you're sitting in silence, are you thinking? Are you aware of your thoughts?
Yeah, yeah. I guess that's the definition of just sort of sitting quietly. Thoughts coming, thoughts going, sounds coming, sounds going,
Okay.
feelings coming, going.
So
Um,
when you're doing that, are you doing it with a purpose in mind?
I used to. I used to have a major purpose, and it was, you know, enlightenment, whatever the hell that meant, you know.
Mm.
That definition has changed over the time for me, and to the point where I'm not really, I don't really, I, I guess just bluntly, I really don't care about that. You know?
Yeah. Good.
It's, you know, and for me, it's kind of like, uh, when I hear what, you know, like what Don was, what he describes, what he's going through, it's like, you know, it's like, for me, that was kind of like, you know, a mad dog chasing his tail in a circle. Just let him go until he winds down, until he just, I just kind of wound down, and it was like,
Yep.
done. You know, I just kind of burn out on it.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
and
So
when
you
that,
say-
and when that moment hit, that's when there was just, that was, again, that was just kind of like an aha moment for me there. It was just sort of like, okay.
So you would say there's no purpose in sitting now. You're doing it because it's enjoyable?
Um, yeah, I suppose. I suppose.
Are you doing it with
Uh,
a sense of curiosity?
yeah,
Mm.
there's still curiosity there. There's curiosity there as to why I even do it. You
Mm.
know, I mean, it's a daily thing that I do. I could say that, you know, you could call it habit, but I'm not structured into it. In other words, it's like I don't. If a situation comes up where it's cut short, or I just, you know, don't, you know,
Yeah.
it's like,
Neither here nor
okay,
there.
yeah,
Yep.
you know, yeah.
Yep.
Um,
Or have you
but I
experienced?
guess I guess the thing, what seems to attract me to that is that it's always, you know, concept on concept on concept. Never it gets me anywhere other than back into my head,
Yeah, of course.
you know. And it's just, again, that's like, you know, I mean, I've read a lot, I've heard a lot, I've experienced a lot, and but it always just comes down to me at this point in my life, where like I can really just appreciate um, getting as close to silence as I as it comes up. You know, it's a great relief,
Right. Yeah.
and it's a great teacher. And I don't know what that means, but it's
Sure.
like there are things in
Discovery.
silence that you, unless you, I highly recommend, if you can, if you can try it, you know.
Well, of course. Well, I say, of course. My experience is there's no such thing as silence. It's very noisy in silence. Noisy probably gives you the wrong idea, but there's a lot of sounds happening. The least of all my tinnitus, but nevertheless, there's all those apparently external sounds. Have you experienced hearing a sound that you feel?
Yes.
It's more than just hearing. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah.
Yep. And what about the experience of how can I put it? space, of distance, of experience of the sound being out there and me being here, hearing the sound. Have you experienced that dissolving so that that
Yeah,
sound isn't out there anymore?
yeah,
Yeah.
I've experienced that with a sound, and then it's like, whoa, where is that?
Yes, there's no
And that
place.
goes with the sensation. It's like, bird, was that, wait a minute. Wow, I felt that. Is it out there? Is it in here? You know, and the mind's like, but it's, yeah, I have. Yeah. So I will hear a sound and I can't tell where it is, and I can't tell where I am in relation to that.
Yeah.
And then I feel that sound. And then that's a whole thing where it's like, wait a minute, how can you feel a sound? It's a visceral feeling, you know, and it can be very tiniest little bird peep somewhere. And it's like, whoa.
Feel the vibration. Okay, great. So have you tried it with vision? Have you tried it?
That's tough. Yeah.
That's a bit harder to do, but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So one of the exercises that might be relevant for you to do is to use vision and look at something and see if you can feel very subtle connection to what it is you're seeing. Now see if you can feel either something radiating from you to it or something radiating from it to you. And whereabouts does it hit the body in each direction if you can feel it? That's a good one. Have you tried that one?
I tried something, I guess, sort of similar to that, but for me, the what seemed to click first was the auditory.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. That's
Partly what sound is
the
because I
easy
can
one.
close my eyes. You
Yeah.
know, I can. There's just like, you know,
Yeah,
there's so much visual stimulation,
that's right. Yeah.
and
Well,
it's
now that
hard,
you've got the,
it's
you
hard
can,
to it's hard to look. Like people say, just do like a splatter vision, or where you just kind of look but don't identify with things, you know. But it's hard not to just like look and say, whoa, okay, that's cabinet, that's a lamp, that's my dog, you know. Automatically a label attaches to it.
so one of the exercises to start off with that, with the vision thing, is to look ahead and focus on what you're seeing, and then recognize that there is stuff out of focus on the peripheral vision. Right. And then
Okay.
slowly turn your head. And as the stuff in the peripheral vision comes into focus, watch how the labels come and jump on. Watch the compulsion to label it, to recognize what it is. Right.
Okay.
Once you get the hang of that, how that's happening, then look for that connection between you and it, and the spatial distance between you and it. Look for how that's experienced. Just something to try. Yeah. An experiment.
Sure.
Alan, I don't know if you were in the call a week or so ago where Paul Thomas shared a book. I picked it up, and it's a collection of exercises that might resonate with you, that are similar to what we're talking about.
That's the direct path.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got that a couple of years ago, and when I did the Liberation Unleashed in 2020, somebody mentioned that, and I picked that up, and I've worked through it. It's a lot, you know. I think I've gone through the first couple of things. I mean, I know it progresses on to like with physical world, and then your body, and then mind, and then finally with awareness. But it is nice step by step. And
I think you're ready for
yeah.
the next step. Let's get moving.
What's that?
I said, I think you're ready for the next step. Let's get moving.
Well, you know, I've been also watching I haven't participated yet with the Awakeness curriculum with the Pernilla, and watching her videos. And I've gone up through, over the course of a few months now, up to like the 4th and 5th fetter areas where I'm watching her videos. And
Okay, yeah.
The great thing about that is, yeah, you know, the great thing about that is like when I went through the Liberation Unleashed, and it was like I did the questions at the end, and they said, okay, wow, I deem you seen through self. And I was like, really? Okay, now what? And
Yeah.
but I think what and that always bothered me, because it was like, well, yeah, okay, but in some ways I still feel very much like in
You
certain
thought you were a fake,
situations, I still feel
yeah.
very much like, and Alan's back, you know, and now he's not, now he's here. And what I liked about the Feder model is that it shows you that, like, I guess, and like, you know, I mean, this is another concept, but how else can we get there, I guess, that, you know, my identification is on very many levels, subtle levels, you know,
And of course, that's
emotional.
for everybody. Yeah, sure.
Right, yeah.
And it's important to appreciate that when Alan comes back, it doesn't mean things have been undone. It probably more likely means that things have been uncovered and stuff is coming up that wasn't there before. It's all a movement forward. There's no going back. It's all forward. Yeah, the Feder model. So that's stuff that I was talking about with vision and so on. That's kind of that's Feder kind of 7 stuff, or 6 and 7, getting up into that level stuff. Yeah, but you're ready for that, I reckon. Yeah.
Shall see.
Yeah, well, that's all a game. Let's have fun. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as you said, you know, a couple of weeks ago, it's just at this point now, there's no like desperation for anything. It's just more curiosity.
Yeah, that's the go.
Have fun. You know.
Yeah. How are you going, Tracy? I've been meaning to talk to you for ages and I just never get there. And every time I'm ready to, you're gone. So I've got you now.
I'm good. I've when we were talking about thought before, I've stopped calling thought and I've started calling them stories, because I feel like every time I feel myself getting stuck in thought, it's all just stories. It's never anything true. Like, it's just pulling me away from direct experience.
Yeah.
And there's been something in that that's really helped me.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just because now, like, I'm recognizing when I say it's stories, it's like, I think I'm telling myself this is fiction. Like, it's not true.
That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah. I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Don, you get that one?
That's what made me think of it when Don was speaking. I was like, it's just stories. It's not, yeah, those thoughts aren't true.
Yeah.
And it just pulls me back into what is now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I've been good. Just,
That's good.
yeah, just really there's just a calmness now that I've never experienced, or not since I was little. Like I was never enjoying life because I was so stuck in my head. I was never present in conversations because there was just this constant spiral of thought, trying to think of what to say next, what the going to say next. Like, I was just so unconscious. Yeah.
Sounds like you're in a good place.
I am. Yeah, I'm in a really good place.
Right.
And when stuff comes up now, obviously there's still things that come up. But I'm just, I feel like it's just easier to bring myself back to now, and just recognize that, like I said, it's stories.
Yeah. So when stuff comes up, you see that it comes up, and your response is to say, let's just get back in the present.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just because I think previously a sensation would come up into my body, and that's when the stories would come in, and I would make assumptions about things, and it would just snowball from there.
Yeah. So by getting yourself back into your body, you're kind of getting out of that, whatever it is that's come up. Yeah.
Yeah, and just allowing it to just be.
Yeah, that's exactly what Don's aiming for. Don's aiming to get that. He would love to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's very calming.
Yeah. But when you're ready, and whenever that is, you'll know, when you're ready, instead of trying to get out of what comes up, welcome it and look at what it's trying to tell you.
Yeah,
so the aim is not to finish it, not to get out of it, but rather to get rid of why it's come up, especially if things repeat. If the same thing comes up again and again, then you know that there's something to work on there. That's where the juice is for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to, though. It's fun where I am. I do know I need to start questioning.
No, you don't have to. You stay there as long as you need to. You will get to the point where that becomes so ordinary and you'll go, geez, I wish some shit would happen so I've got something to work on. You will get like that, believe me.
Yeah. I do have somebody in my life that brings a lot of that on.
Yeah.
And previously I would have distanced myself, but I find myself quite drawn to it now because I do like that it happens. But I have recognized that I'm not, there's a sense of me trying to or being happy to be able to control it, rather than questioning it.
Okay.
And trying to get to the bottom of it. So
you got to watch those points when you start patting yourself on the shoulder. That's another trap.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm.
You don't try and stop them. You just look at what's underneath them. Yeah. No, that's good. That sounds like great. Yeah. Excellent.
Thanks, Vince.
You're welcome. Yeah. How are you at the moment, Leonard?
I'm quite fine. It's just that I didn't get too much sleep recently. I mean, I don't know if that's normal, but recently I have a lot of strange dreams, but telling me a lot of things. I mean, tonight I had a dream, but in the dream I was aware that I was dreaming, and then
a lucid dream.
Yeah, it pointed to something very traumatic from my childhood.
Yes.
But in the dream, I thought like, no, I should not wake up because that's something important. I can learn from that.
Yes.
And then I finished dreaming the dream. I woke up, and then I also thought, no, I should stay up a bit now. And I made myself a tea just in order to remember it.
Yes, excellent. Good thinking.
And, yeah, it was kind of strange because, I mean, it's not a traumatic situation that I never thought about before. But this dream, like, pointed to some connections to some other behaviors that I think were kind of resulting from post-its, as Pernille always says, like from traumatic experience. And then I kind of understood also that there were some behaviors that were kind of repeating the same traumatic situation again and again, that I was kind of searching for this situation to happen again. And now it didn't really shock me that much. It was just like I thought, okay, that's not valid anymore, or it doesn't
Yeah.
it doesn't work like that anymore.
I was
So
going to ask you, did you resolve it in your dream? And that sounds like a resolution.
yeah, kind of. I mean, I'm not quite
Just
sure.
tell yourself it wasn't valid, or did you recognize that it wasn't valid?
No, I recognize that the behaviors that this trauma was resulting in, that this is not valid anymore. But watching the Pernille's videos, I really learned a lot about also my toxic starting point. I think I really got there. And yeah, I would not like to go into details because this is a bit like,
Sure.
it has to do with sexual traumatic situations as well. So
Well, you don't need to go into detail. So
yeah,
if,
no, it's not that important anyway. But the other thing is that I kind of understood that my toxic starting point was that things that I'm experiencing when I'm alone are not as precious as things that I experience in the presence of someone else. And now I understood that this toxic starting point is not true. I mean, like if I experience something alone, it doesn't mean that it's worth more or less than if I experience it with somebody else. So yeah, I can really enjoy more both things actually. Yesterday I met a new friend, I guess. I mean, I'm making a lot of new friends now, which is something quite special because I spent like several years in complete loneliness and I isolated myself a lot, but I think I'm coming out of my cave now. So so I'm enjoying to be alone, but also to be with people at the moment. So.
okay. Yep. And is being with those people, is that bringing up stuff for you?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't think so. It's only that, for quite a long time, I could not, it was like super exhausting for me to be with other people, even with my best friends. I could stay with them like for 1 hour and not more. Then I would have to. Yeah, now, for example, it's a group of new people. Actually, I met them because they do ice bathing. And actually, this is also great stuff. It's like my trick to get into direct experiencing, because when you are in this cold water and
Wim Hof?
yeah, might have to do something with him, but I'm not quite sure. It's like people, and during the winter, like we were always meeting like every Saturday to go into the water together, and then also you have to do some breathing exercises before. But it's really the best meditation I could imagine, because you don't have any other chance than to go into the body sensation. There's nothing else that you could think about in this moment. And then also it's really great. And also, before you go into the water, you really understand that it's your mind telling you, no, I can't, and no, it's too cold and I can't. And it's like really blowing up like a balloon or something. But once you're in the water, I mean, I really enjoy it actually, although you could think that it's like really uncomfortable, but
I get it. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, and with those people, for example, like some weeks ago, I was invited to have a brunch, like on Sunday. And actually I spent 6 hours there. And before I was always really uncomfortable spending time in groups. I mean, I have this kind of group trauma. So it's actually the first time in my life that I'm enjoying it without alcohol or any other stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
sounds like you're in a really good place too. That's great. Yeah.
yeah, but very tired today.
Sure. Yeah. And enjoy those dreams. They can reveal lots to you. That's good.
Yeah,
It was very clever to stay awake so that you didn't forget it again. That's good stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Let it integrate.
Yeah, it seems that recently there is a lot of shit coming up. I don't know.
Yeah,
So
that will happen. Yeah. Yeah. Good one. Yeah. Ah. How are you, Ramiz?
I'm feeling sick today, so I would be listening.
Okay. So we'll leave you alone if you like.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. I've never asked you how you are, Rowena. How are you?
A little
kind of
tired.
you're always good.
A little tired today. It was interesting because I tend to I'm guiding, and I have one person now because the first person, Joan, she has dropped away. But so, and I tend to do the replying late at night because that's the time sort of it seems to be the most undisturbed. But so that I did, but then afterwards, it was so interesting how there was so many questions. There was so much mind thing that I had not engaged with too much in the in the first posting. So that when I went to sleep and I realized, and so I had a sort of like a thought, and it was infiltrating my my sleep of like questions. Oh, I should have asked this question. Oh no, I should have asked that question. So I got very yeah, I guess I got really sort of identified with the with the conversation. And it wasn't so much that I wanted to get a point across, but it was more, I suppose, being a new guide, wanting to do it really well. And in a way, I suppose that was it. And so I could have phrased it like this. And so I woke up this morning sort of like rather bleary-eyed and did carry on the conversation first thing, but that was sort of that's the aliveness of the most recently.
So did you get the identifying that was happening as you thought how you should have done it?
Well, it was
better.
Well, so I understand the way, because of all the other things that I'm doing. I don't have the full time, and probably knowing the way this functions here, it would take hours. It could take hours, but that time isn't allowed, as it were. I don't have that time. So I felt at the time, I think that when I had done the first response, there was a sort of time pressure, like this is enough now, it's late. And now you say it, I could have sat, there was definitely a something there that would have been there, that could have been felt, probably underneath the tiredness and the instructions, thoughts, all right, time for bed, it's late. There would have been the body a response to, I could have done better, something like that. That mechanism that I didn't actually think to go into. Now it's rather obvious that there was something going on. And I mostly, when I woke up this morning, there was a lot of heady stuff, you know, just sensations in the head. And I sort of sat with just, yeah, highly activated, I suppose, mental energy. I find reading, especially, you know, focusing and reading, is still a big pull into mind out of a full experience. Listening to talking, mostly that's just happens, but there is an identification, some sort of type of efforting, or something is happening when words are read. It's not just happening reading words. There's yeah, so that's what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I think any time the idea comes up that I could have done it differently, I should have done it differently, even just the idea of it happening differently is an opportunity to look at it is identification happening.
Yeah, for sure. It's the first time that that's happened, actually, in the last little while. I think probably because it's a repetitive theme that's it comes back. And so there's a thought like, oh, I've already pointed to that, or I've already pointed. And so, yeah, there's definitely things to look at where there's a hook.
Well, I mean, and that's kind of probably okay too, you know, because if you've already pointed to something and something triggers you to point to it again, it probably needs to be pointed to again.
Oh, yeah.
But tiredness, when you're tired or when you're stressed, that's when things will come up more easily, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the sort of, everything is, especially at nighttime, and you've got the screen, and you're reading words, it's very, very heady activity. So it's a lot of electrical energy. It's very stimulating for the nervous system, I guess.
You know, I mean, my experience is sometimes I'm just so tired that I couldn't do them justice to answer them on the forum. You know, I just have to leave it till tomorrow night. You know. It's just, and that's more of that lately than it used to be, but yeah, certainly it is the case. And some people you're more excited to answer and work with, and other people it's like, oh, this is hard work, you know. So it's tricky, yeah. But recognizing that stuff and just allowing it is all we can do, isn't it? Nothing else.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I take it that those who are not showing their face don't want to be spoken to, so that's, I guess that'll do us for the night, eh? No, here's Bianca. She wants to be spoken to. Hello, Bianca.
Hi.
What are your thoughts about what's happened? What are you feeling?
Hmm. I had this dream that I described to you in writing, and I'm still with this dream.
Right.
Um,
Where you were shaking?
mm,
Yeah.
The shaking has stopped. Like just maybe something went out. And there is so much in the stream. First, there was a meeting with a group like this one, but in the real world, and near to where I live, on the meadow. And the group was telling me to leave my apartment more and to go for walks. And I was explaining that it doesn't help. And then in the dream, somehow I woke up in a psychiatric hospital, and I was very happy about it.
Yes.
There are also nice memories, so it's not strange. And under my patient's gown, I had a very beautiful, elaborate belt for belly dancing.
Say that again.
The belt for belly dancing.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. The one with bells on it. Yes.
Yes, with bells.
Yeah.
And I was going through this hospital very happy and shaking my hips, making it ring. Yes, so so there was shaking also in the dream.
Different shaking to the bells, to the belly dancing. Like more.
No. It was this.
Oh, that was the shaking. Yes,
in the
okay.
dream.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Right.
And then in the real world, when I really woke up, there was still shaking, but I couldn't say what it.
Different kind of shaking.
Yes, more like nervous shaking.
Mm.
And but it was interesting. But here's shaking, it's so different.
So it seems really significant, that dream.
Yes.
Did you make anything of it? Did it tell you anything?
It was it is about that I tend to pay attention to what is painful, what hurts in my mind, but underneath there is still this body that takes much pleasure in senses and it was like going into a different personality that is also me, and maybe it's imagined personality. Like something when we look at a tree and we imagine how it is to be this tree, it's so peaceful. Maybe no.
Sure. Yep.
But maybe it is
Yep.
troublesome. But it's purely imagined.
Yes. So here in the dream, and now in your waking, you can imagine being in this body that really enjoyed shaking the bells and being free and being happy and being different to how you are in
Yeah,
real life.
but I started to think that maybe this one, how I usually am, it's also imagined.
Of course.
Like
It is, yeah.
how it feels to be in this troubled mind and what personality is it.
In that body that was in your dream, that body that was really relaxed, that really being in itself, it enjoyed the movement, it enjoyed shaking the bells, it was smiling. This body was just feeling so good. For you to imagine that, it is part of your experience.
Yes, it is me.
Yes. Does it feel for you like it is some part of you that wants to come out, that wants to be prominent?
I feel she's more like how do you say it? Working from the shadows, and she enjoys it.
Yep. Why do I keep thinking of the word erotic?
Well,
it
it's
sounds
very
erotic to me.
sensual.
Yes.
It
very
is sensual.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And that body was not in the slightest bit concerned with witnessing. It was just pure expression, pure expression. Yeah. Just, yeah.
And yes, with the first part, with these advices of walk through the woods, and it also yes, it points to something, but it is so planned. It is so much from the mind.
Yes.
Coming from mind. Yeah, I will go through the woods and I will achieve something.
Yeah.
And when it comes from the body, it's and it's not and always walking through the woods, and I don't know.
Yep, I get it.
Also feels what a nice, polite girl would do.
Yes.
And the body is not a nice, polite girl.
Yes.
It feels naughty.
You would not get approval from your parents to be that way?
Stranger, my parents would be happy.
Right, okay.
For me just to be happy.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. who would not approve of that, of you being that way?
Strange. I think this group,
Say again.
this group,
This
or
group.
Pernille.
No, she would never disapprove of anything. I don't think.
Oh, you know, it's like something she said. I think when someone eats meat, then it's no sense to go into spiritual journey. Or
No, yeah, yeah. We're way past that.
and
We're
then
way
she
past
said
that.
it's her personal opinion, and you do
Yeah.
what you want. And
It
but
changes.
yeah, but it's a part of being naughty, eating meat.
Yeah, I think we're way past that point. So you can see that this Bianca that thinks how well, that lives from thinking is identified, is the self, and that this body that is free and sensual and moves, loves, it so enjoys the sensation of moving and jiggling and shaking and all of that, that body has no thoughts. That body does not come from thinking.
I don't know.
No, okay. Well, you can look for those things. Yeah. But that statement about self is definitely not true any longer. That statement, that your self is very apparent with the thoughts. The ego is there. Let's get rid of it. Well, not get rid of it, but let's tame it. Yeah. I want to see you jiggle. Yeah. But I think it's very much worthwhile you looking at and confronting where you might imagine disapproval will come from. And if it's this group, then do this to the group. Yeah. They'll cope with it for sure. Yeah. From no disapproval from me, that's for sure. I can see, I can only imagine the tightness and constriction from the Bianca that lives out of thought. You know, that desire to not have a witness working 24/7 is it must be just absolutely exhausting for that, to have that. So that's, I can see, I can really identify with the value of the freedom from that. But that all comes from identifying with a self. And that, to my way of thinking, all that comes back to how somebody, maybe somebody called Bianca, thinks she should be, not how she really wants to be. That's just my opinion anyway.
Yeah, sorry to jump in. I just found it very interesting that you said you woke up in a psychiatry in your dream and you were very happy, and then this belly dancing thing. So, I mean, I don't want to interpret anything psychological into it, but I think it's also pointing to something, no? I mean,
well, like for me, psychiatric hospital was a place when mm, I was more allowed to be as I am, to be depressed.
You could be as weird.
I was almost expected. It was expected of me to be depressed.
Absolutely.
It was so fun.
Yeah.
Um,
It was perfect permission
yeah.
there to be whatever you wanted. Yeah, lovely. Yeah.
And
Where outside of that,
everywhere around me, there were people even stranger
Yeah.
than me and more awkward, and it was all fine.
yeah.
Yes.
And outside there are rules and regulations to
Mm.
follow. Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Mm. But you can you see that the rules and regulation from outside come from you, from your thoughts, from ideas.
Well, there is the other side. It's I am prone to addiction, different kinds of addiction.
Mhm.
I have my cigarettes right beside me. Hmm. Yeah, and well, not going into specifics, it can go wrong
Yes, of course. Okay.
to
Yeah.
follow the sense.
Yeah. So at some point, maybe not now, but at some point, the value of those addictions could be explored, because they do bring value. That's otherwise you wouldn't do them.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Yes.
yeah. And like all of this stuff, it's not appropriate just to try and stop it. What we want to do is make it unnecessary. We want to remove the need for it by getting rid of that stuff that's in the shadows. Yeah. And I think you've made a giant step tonight towards that. I mean, it's one thing to write it down between you and me, but it's another thing to say it out loud here in front of everybody. That's a big thing. Yeah. So you risked that disapproval when you did that. That's bravery. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thoughts, they are still coming. Like today, listening to all of you, I thought, wow, I am so lazy. I'm not doing all these exercises from the direct path or from this YouTube channel or that YouTube channel. Oh, I can't be bothered. I don't meditate. And it's, oh, I am so lazy.
I'm like that too, but I don't call myself lazy. It might be, but I don't do any of that stuff. I take it in by osmosis. So, yeah, I don't read anything. I don't watch anything anymore. I just hang around people who know about it and it rubs off. That's great. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I'm still coming to the meetings very systematically, but well, it's not systematic in the meaning that I feel I had to do it.
Yes.
I just like it. I
Right.
just want to.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. And every meeting you'll hear something that will have a little effect on you. And sometimes you won't even know it.
Mhm.
You just take it in. Yeah. Even just the mood you take in, just the openness of everybody. I mean, boy, everybody's bared their soul. How great is that? That's wonderful trust. It's brilliant. Yeah.
Bianca, did you ever hear the movie Mozart and the Whale?
No,
You might like it.
Mozart and the Whale.
Yeah.
Okay, I check it.
It's an intriguing title, isn't it? Yeah. I haven't seen it either. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to wind up. It's I've got another one of these in the morning, so a few hours sleep, and then we'll be at it again. And tomorrow it's me on the other side of the thing. Yeah, working on myself. Good one. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Greatly. Love
See you
that.
soon. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.